There is something deeply unifying about a fire, a centre from which radiates literal and metaphorical warmth. Conversations flick up around the edges with the flames, and for a while the slow heat might rest in near silence, before suddenly finding new life, just as the people around it can break into energised conversation. Habitually silent strangers offer greetings, observations and wit. I recently had just such an experience at a campsite on the Somerset levels. It was dark when I arrived, and I was grateful for the generous hospitality of the owner. I resisted my usual inclination to solitude and accepted his invitation. Bird watchers, weekend tourists, and a young couple contemplating life in a van on the road as an alternative to urban poverty. All shared their stories, which were generously attended to by everyone there. While I was sitting watching the steaming and hissing tree stump, which had just been dropped into the centre of the flames, I absent-mindedly leant forward to reach through the outer flickering and scooped up a terrified woodlouse, dropping it into the mulch between my feet. One of my neighbours, who'd said little up to that point, was horrified. "Why did you do that?" he asked. "You could have been really hurt." I muttered the sort of thing that one does when one is confident, with wisdom and experience, or possibly with the bravado that comes from complete ignorance. But he couldn't leave it there. He wanted to know why I had chosen to rescue this one tiny insect. Why did its life have any particular value to me? And what's more, he inquired, would I extend the same sensitivity to the mosquitoes that were already undoubtedly infiltrating my sleeping quarters? He had a point. That particular conversation ended with me being silenced by my own hypocrisy. The following day, out on the marshes, marvelling at the miracles achieved in 30 years of conservation effort in the nature reserves, I was still thinking about that woodlouse. I'd chosen to intervene, but I could equally have done nothing. The thing I kept coming back to was the troubling assertion from the book of Genesis, from the creation narrative, that people are given dominion over nature. The scripture says, "Then God said, let us make humankind in our image, according to our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the wild animals of the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps upon the earth." If I'm honest, it's not the only passage that I have cause to take issue with. But the particular worldview that arises from an interpretation that says people are more important than everything else and can do as they choose has potentially done more damage than almost any other orthodoxy. Scholarly analysis of the original language in this passage notes that the term dominion is an interpretation of the concept of ruling. A ruling that can only occur when there is godliness, and a ruling that can be turned upside down if it isn't honoured. In other words, if humankind's ability to care for creation isn't upheld in a sacred manner, then creation will find its own way of restoring order. On the basis that what you do is a perfectly designed process for what you end up with, it seems to me that we are well overdue a radical evaluation of our relationship with the natural world and the planet as a whole. The beliefs and actions we have taken so far are what have brought us to the point where we are now. So this seems to me to be a good moment to think very carefully about what we do next.